Hi folks, welcome back to Homestead Y'all. This is part 3 of our series on Hugelkultur and Vego raised beds. We are filling up 8 beds now with this good top shelf garden soil coming in. This is 15 yards of organic compost, topsoil, manure all mixed together. It's a raised bed blend. We are getting 15 yards over to the raised beds, filling it up by hand. We'll be showing you today the process, but also leaving our hints and our tips and tricks of how we did this and why and what's going on. We'll be describing the Hugelkultur method that we're using and why we didn't use Hugelkultur last year and what happened with those raised beds. All the steam that you see coming off, that is the composting going on inside the material. It's already cooking in there. It's ready to go.
Okay, let me show you. We do have these Vego beds. These are really good beds. They're, like any other corrugated metal, are not going to be fun to put together. You got a lot of, bolts, washers, nuts to put together. A lot of panels. You got to tighten them down. I wanted to give you a little tip. We did one of these beds. We did forget to tighten the bolts before we put the soil in, so they were all loose. It's going to hold together, but it's not going to be tight like it should. So we did have to come back and tighten it, but luckily, these Vego beds do provide you with a tool to, that you can tighten things with. You basically use two hands, one on the inside, one on the outside. But since we had forgotten to do that and this thing was full of soil, luckily, I went back and I took the impact driver and I started tightening from the outside, and I don't know if it's the tension on from the soil pushing the nuts, and I don't know if it's the tension of panel against panel, but luckily just from the outside you are able to tighten them. These are just little Phillips heads on the outside, so you can tighten this. If you do forget, you can tighten these from the outside mostly. There were a few that do not want to tighten. They did not tighten, no matter, they just spin and spin. But those are few and far between. I'd say, maybe, two on each bed you might get that don't want to do that. The rest of them did just fine tightening from the outside. One hand, full of soil. So if you do forget, go back. It's still probably going to work. Before I get all this soil in here, I wanted to show you what we're actually stuffing these things down in here with, and how we're doing the Hugelkultur in these beds. Now last year we did not do Hugelkultur, we just did soil, which meant using more soil and less of the natural resources around us. So it took a lot more, a little bit more costly that way, and also just not as purposefully reusing material. So let me show you what we're dealing with in here, how we did the Hugelkultur, at least in these beds, and we'll get you started. Here's the logs under here. So if you can see this, we've got logs, big old logs, even some bigger ones in the other beds that we're putting, and you know, more logs over here, logs on top of logs, and then covered it with a mixture of leaves that when we put them in, they're both wet and dry. So just want to make sure to try to cover that on all sides as much as possible before the soil goes on. We didn't go over halfway. The recommendation that I read is don't go over halfway in these raised beds with these logs. Cover it all up with this brown matter, green matter. It looks like more brown than green at the moment, but we got lots of compost in the soil, so we're going to top it off with soil. It's a good mixture of you know, garden soil, compost, topsoil. It's got all the good stuff in it on top of this, so even though we don't have a lot of green matter here, it's still going to be okay. All right folks, let me show you this. This is one of our beds from last year, and this is pretty indicative, good example of what has actually happened since we got these in last year. You can see this bed, this is not even the worst case. This one is probably about 5 inches down. We've got some areas that are closer to 10 inches down. That's how much, you know, this thing has shrunk in a year's time. We're gonna mound a little bit higher the new time on the new beds, and we've also using the Hugelkultur method, so hopefully that will eliminate some of that loss or shrinkage. But it is to be expected. It's not something that we didn't expect to happen, and something that we can definitely counter by adding more soil as time goes on. So just wanted to give you an example of what you can expect. Good raised beds. These are Vego beds, perfectly fine, but you know, your soil will shrink over time throughout the year. Hello folks, welcome back. It's been a few days. We've had a torrential downpour. We've had a couple small rains, but a really big one. You're gonna see that we lost some size here. At least it wasn't quite full, but there's still been a couple inches that it's dropped here just from being compacted by the rain and settling, and a little bit of erosion probably throughout. It's really come down a couple inches, so we're gonna top all these off. We're reaching the end of our project here, but we do have to top all these off, otherwise over the year it's going to go even lower than this. We just don't want to be bending over too far into the beds, and it's going to keep going down, so we'll leave enough room to top this off come the fall probably, with some new mulch. But we're going to get this a little bit higher, get it up closer to the edge on all these, and get it ready for planting some of the starters that we're going to have this spring. So let's do it. Okay folks, we're done with these raised beds. We got them full, mostly full, a little mound. Try to get it all the way to the edge, try to get it to be high enough so that when the rain does fall next time, it's not gonna go down too low. Stay tuned, we're gonna get some tomatoes, some bell peppers, some herbs, some cucumbers. We're gonna get lots of stuff in here, so stay tuned, see what happens, watch the progress as the year goes on. This has been a long time coming. We actually had when we bought the house, there was hang on baby. When we bought the house, there was a big old pool here and a deck, and a little bit derelict. You know, it's time for it to come out. So we got rid of that. There was a big hole in the ground. We had trucks full of dirt come in and fill the hole. We got dirt spread out and leveled. We had it all graded, try to make it even with the other side of the yard, so the garden is kind of level. So I had to take care of all that. This has been a long time coming, a long project. Lots of labor, lots of love. I got these raised beds put together. I got the dirt brought in, got the dirt put, got it leveled on top. So many steps, lots of steps to get this done. We had a little bit of issue with drainage. One of the gutters happened to be washing out one of the beds here. So we had to go get some drainage pipe to reroute that temporarily until we can figure out a better solution underground or something. So all of that being said, we got everything done. We're ready to go. We're gonna get some starters, we're gonna get some seeds, try it all out. So this was Vego beds, Hugelkultur with, we got oak logs in there and leaves. So we'll see how that compares to the other beds that we have that were just soil. We'll see if it made a difference, but it did, in theory, at least save us some space that we didn't have to fill with soil. All right, and there is one more step that we got to do. I will show you that later, but it's basically just putting on the trim on here that protects you from the sharp edges of the raised beds. You can't cut your hand on these corners, they're kind of sharp. So we'll be putting that on shortly. But that can be done last. You know, it can be done at any time really, now that the beds are full and raised and everything. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned as the year progresses to see how the vegetables do, and give us a like, click subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Homestead Y'all. Thank you.